Hi everybody, how you doing? I was recently watching a video by Matthew Smith where he listed his top 10 McCartney albums, and that's something I've been thinking about doing by coincidence myself. So I decided to take it a step further though by going a lot more albums, and when I counted out the amount, I had 24 albums, which was kind of a weird number, so I threw in one more to make 25. Just want to say this is just my opinion as of today, September 1st, 2014. Really hard to take this many albums trying to put them in order. I mean, how do you differentiate what's a number 16 album and what's a number 17 album, you know? But I tried to do the best I could. Some ground rules I kind of made here. First, there are no live albums here, so something like Wings Over America, which is a good album, but I'm not just going to include live albums. I don't feel like including them. Basically doing the studio albums here, pop and rock, you know, main albums from Paul. Also, there are no albums here like Paul's classical albums, Liverpool Oratorio, or anything like that. This is just the basic albums. I wasn't going to include, and I'm not including, most of the Fireman albums like Oceans, Ships, whatever the first one is called, Strawberries, Oceans, Ships, and the second one called Rushes. You know, they're not here. You know, neither is Twin Freaks or anything like that. I wasn't even going to include Electric Arguments in here, but the reason I'm counting that album is I needed something to make 25. You know, 25 is a better number than 24. I'm going to go through these kind of fast because I only have a 25-minute limit here on the video. I'm going to start with the album. Something's got to be on the bottom. If you're going to list 25 albums in order of preference, something's got to be the dog on the bottom. And for me, you probably know what it is already if you watch me with any consistency. It's a 2001 bomb from Paul McCartney, Thriving Pain, actually called Driving Rain. This is my least favorite solo album by any of the four Beatles, including Ringo. I'm sorry, Ringo, to throw you in there all the time. Just to give you an idea, there's not one track on here that I genuinely enjoy. It's a dull, dreary album with terrible lyrics in most of the songs, and I just can't stand it. So, that's at number 25, Driving Rain. Then we go to number 24, one notch slightly better, but still lousy in my opinion. The 1986 mess that's called Press to Play, which I really can't stand. It never has improved on me since I first heard it in August of '86. There's a couple of tracks here I can tolerate more than Driving Rain, but I don't know what this cover has to do with the material that's on the record. Not that you judge an album by its cover, but it's just not for me. Paul, the material is just bad, I think, and in my opinion, he didn't do so well trying to mix in with 80s recording sounds and technology, and yeah, real misfire. So anyway, then we go to number 23, which we're listening to the first track now. It's the Russian album, as they call it. It's an album that Paul did in either 80, I think in 87 or 88, I think 87, of oldies. I just don't like the way he sings most of them, and the reason it's here also is because I kind of prefer, for the most part, you know, albums where the artists are doing their original material. So I've heard worse albums in the world than this, but I'm just not crazy about it. This song, Kansas City, is not bad though, but something's got to be lower. Very hard to put these in some kind of sequence. So next one is going to be the album that I picked for number 22, and this would be the 1983 release, Pipes of Peace. Kind of low down there on Paul's repertoire. I would say that I like songs here like the title track, Pipes of Peace. I like So Bad. I like Keep Undercover, Say, Say, Say. But for the most part, it's weak McCartney. Okay, now, the album that I put, it's not really fair to put this record here at number 21. Pipes of Peace was 22. The album I put at 21 is Electric Arguments, but hear me out on this. In all fairness, I'm not really familiar with the album. I mean, I only played it 2 or 3 times since 2008 when it was released. I'm ashamed of myself about that as a fan. A lot of people love this album. I like the first track, Nothing Too Much Out of Sight, I think it's called. And then there's a song here, Sing the Changes, which I enjoy, but I really only spun this a couple of times. It didn't knock me over. The rest of it, need to give it more of a try. But for now, that's where it's going to wind up. And Like I say, the only reason I put that album in this review is because I wanted 25 titles. So that's the album that I put for number 21. Now we go to number 20. I also feel bad putting this album here because this is a good album, really, but it's the album of McCartney Standards that he did in 2012 called Kisses on the Bottom. It's a good album, really, but again, by virtue of the fact that, or by default of the fact that it's not really original stuff by McCartney, I've decided to place it here. I like a lot of the songs on here, and My Valentine is a new McCartney track, which is very good as far as putting on his resume. So that's where that goes. Kisses on the Bottom. Then we got the album that falls at number 19 for me. Number 19 is going to be the 1973 release, Red Rose Speedway. I mean, I've played this many times. I just can't get into this album as a whole. Just get the feeling that Paul doesn't know what to do as far as being commercial or being obscure, and he's like waffling around. I love the song Big Barn Bed that opens the album. I love the classic My Love. And maybe there's a couple of others here, but nothing really here is top-notch for me. I've always been kind of indifferent to this album as a whole piece. Okay, now we're going to the album that I placed at number 18. Number 18 is going to be the 1999 release, Run Devil Run. And this is another effort that Paul, after Linda died, he tried to just lose himself into heavy rock and roll. I think he sounds much better on this album than he does on the Russian rock and roll album that I talked about earlier. And he screams and sings with power. This album is just like relentlessly rock all the way through. And I would say that it's preferable to the other one for me. Paul sounds like he's still in the Cavern Club or something. Okay, now that was Run Devil Run at number 18. Now the one I'm going to put at number 17. Number 17 is going to be the soundtrack to the flop movie, Give My Regards to Broad Street from 1984. We're getting some better songs now. I think we're coming into better stuff as I'm going higher up. I love the new song, Not Such a Bad Boy, a rocker on here, and I also love the song No Values, but not as much as Not Such a Bad Boy. The ballad No More Lonely Nights is terrific, The rest of it is Paul redoing a lot of Beatles songs, and some of them, are pretty good, but I don't think any of them really top the originals. So this is somewhere like hovering, in the middle of the no man's land of the list, if you will. Okay, so that was Give My Regards to Broad Street at number 17. Now at number 16, a lot of people think this album deserves a higher status than I'm giving it. It's Flowers in the Dirt from 1989. The problem I've always had with this album is it was a comeback of sorts for Paul, but I really only like 3 songs, three or 4, which I think are pretty good here. I mean, there are a couple of real gems on this album. I think Put It There, and this one are the best 2 songs on the album. There's a couple of others I like, but for the most part, this gets lost in a lot of sappy, slow-moving dross that I just think is kind of weak. So as a full album, it just doesn't come together for me. You may be surprised to see me giving the next album a higher rating than that album, and a lot of people wouldn't put this high on the list. It's Wings Wildlife, the first Wings album. What I like about this album is, although it didn't go over well when it first was released, and it often comes up on the absolute bottom of the list. A lot of McCartney fans will put this dead last, or next to last. But I like that it's him trying to just get together and do raucous rock and roll with a new band, and having the first Wings album, 1971. I just think it's an offbeat kind of album, and there's nothing on here that's a hit. I don't know, it's just very different for Paul, and it stands out today because of it. Alright, the album that I placed here next at number 14 is going to be an album that some people I think would place higher. I know Matthew Smith did. This is London Town, a Wings album. I love the cover here. It's like a chilly day in damp, dank England. And you got the summer down there, it looks like. Anyway, another album that's not consistent enough for me to be on closer to the top. But, I love the title song, London Town. I love With a Little Luck, the hit, which was when I was growing up as a kid at 16. It was a radio hit. And, you know, Cafe on the Left Bank, I'm Carrying, and there's a rocker on here called I've Had Enough that I like a lot. It's not bad. We're getting better, you know. Next we got the album that I placed at number 13. Number 13 would be Wings at the Speed of Sound. Really terrible cover here. God, I mean, could you get any more boring than this? But back is a little better. I haven't reviewed some of these albums yet officially on my review series. This album gets lost and forgotten a lot because you got hits on here like Silly Love Songs, and then the other hit, Let 'Em In, which was, again, very big when I was growing up. But you got a good song here, a rocker called Beware My Love. That's good. And you got Linda's Cook of the House vocal, which a lot of people think is horrifying. It is kind of bad, but I get a kick out of it. Anyway, this is a band album. You got a lot of efforts by the other Wings members singing here. It gets forgotten, this album. Okay. See, now you're listening to Ain't That a Shame now from the Russian album that I talked about, the Oldies album. I can't stand this version, the way Paul sings it. Anyway, now we're going to the album that I placed at number 12. Actually, it doesn't sound so bad this time. Anyway, number 12 is the McCartney album. A lot of people would place this higher, you know. And, you know, I love Maybe I'm Amazed on here, which I think may be Paul's all-time, in my opinion, greatest solo song. I especially like the studio version over the live version. But the problem with this album, Paul's debut from 1970, is that, you know, it's really just half-finished songs and doodles, you know. But still, when you're in the mood to hear that, it's fine. You know, you have to be in the mood. So that's why I just don't place it so high. Now we'll go to number 11. Number 11 is going to be McCartney 2 from 1980. And yeah, I like it better than the original McCartney. Why? I admit, because I was 18 when it came out. I was graduating high school that summer. Brings back a lot of memories. So, anyway. And it's Paul experimenting, doing something really different with machine and sound effects. And I just like it. You know. It's underrated. That also falls on the bottom of a lot of people's list along with Wings Wildlife. I'd be interested, if you're watching, to know what your opinion is. Then we're going to go to, we're into the top 10. So the top 10, okay, this is the moments we really wait for, right? This song. Off the Ground from 1993 at number 10, which I just feel is another underrated, forgotten album. This is when Linda and Paul were still like together, and Linda hadn't been diagnosed with her illness yet. So, yeah, it is a shame. It's a shame, it's a shame, it's a shame, it's a shame, it's a shame. You know, I don't know why Paul sings so many of these songs like, in some of these oldies he does it like that. That's why I don't like the oldies album. Anyway, back to Off the Ground. Yeah, there's some real good songs on here, and it's the last time Paul seemed like the real vintage Paul before Linda died, and then he changed a little bit. So, 1993 album. Number 10, let's start off the top 10. Number 9, I don't have this album yet on vinyl. And it's Chaos and Creation in the Backyard at number 9. Okay, now why don't I have it on vinyl? Because it's at least $200. What is this? Anyway, yeah, $200. Oh is right. So you're lucky if you get it for $200. It's usually more expensive than that. Anyway, this came out in 2005. I think I liked it better when it was released than I do now. I think with the years that have passed since 05, it's kind of gone down a little bit. But what I like about this is a time where Paul really talks. He sounds depressed in some of the songs. Sounds like he's troubled. This I've always considered. I haven't done a proper review on this yet, by the way, but I don't want to give too much away. But I always considered this to be like Paul McCartney's John Lennon Plastic Ono Band album. you know. So that's how I feel about that. So I got, but it's good material. It's good material, and it's Paul being a little more deep, I think, in some songs, and talking about his feelings and being more vulnerable is why I like it so much. I think that's worthy of being in the top 10, and I got it at number 9. Number 8 would be the album that came after that, 2007's Memory Almost Full. This has just got a lot of variety on here. It's got like different sounds, different kinds of music, and it flows together nicely. A lot of variety on here is really just why I like it. And I won't talk about individual songs. You can see my review on that, but there's a track here called The End of the End, which is Paul's commentary on how he wants to be remembered when he dies, and looking ahead to his imminent death as he gets older, which I think is kind of fascinating and really cool of Paul to actually tap into those kind of feelings. So that's 2007's Memory Almost Full at number 8. Here's the album I put at number 7. It's going to be Tug of War, number 7, from 1982. Another album that I feel was a lot better when it was released. It was like a masterpiece in 1982. I think this kind of goes downhill a little bit as time goes on. It gets a little dated sounding, but I love it. There's a lot of great songs on here, including the tribute to John Lennon, Here Today. Just a lot of good stuff. The opening track, Tug of War, Ballroom Dancing, The Pound is Sinking, Wanderlust, which is another Beatle-like classic, and so on. So here's the album I'm going to put now at number 6. At number 6 is another album that's sort of getting reevaluated and needs more attention. It's Back to the Egg, Wings, from 1979. Really good, mostly rockin' album. Sounds really rock. I watched Rock Boy's review, Rock Boy 680. If you watch his thing, Rock Boy 680. He gave this a nice review and talked about it as a prog album, or a punk album, I would say, or it's really good for a rockin' album. There's a couple of songs in that don't rock, but this is Paul. That's why it's called Back to the Egg, at his rockin' roots from 1979, and really underrated and forgotten. Now we're going to get to the albums in the top 5. Here's the top 5 albums as of now. Number 5, Flaming Pie. Matthew Smith, if you're watching this, and I'm sure you are, make this a priority. I hope I don't steer you wrong. Give it a couple listens. It didn't grab me on first listen either. A lot of Paul albums don't, but now I think this is one of Paul's best albums. Flaming Pie, 1997. Got Ringo on the album too, here and there, and he works with Steve Miller and his son James. But there's some good stuff on here, and I think the song Some Days is as good as anything the Beatles did. It sounds like it belongs on the Revolver album, like with For No One, or songs like that. Okay, the album that I put as number 4, it may surprise a lot of people, but hey, who says that we have to go back all the time and only like the early albums? Paul's newest album from last year, it's not even a year old yet. October it'll be a year old. This is Paul's latest album called New, and it's not just called New because it's a new album. It's called New because the feeling on it is like a fresh feeling of new romance and new love. And there's, again, many different producers on this album help Paul. Many different styles on this album. Give it a few listens and you'll see you like it, I think. This is a great album, and I hope Paul's around for a long time. I hope he makes many more albums, but at the same time, if he shouldn't make any more albums, to me this is a real fitting final album from Paul. It's too bad that it's only made number 3 in the US. It's deserving of a number 1 album. Okay, number 3 is going to be Band on the Run. Everybody considers this Paul's first or second best album. I always hate being very typical, putting albums that you expect to be at the top, always at the top, no surprises. But I want to give this a lower ranking, but I can't. I mean, this is Paul when he first became Paul McCartney with the Wings, and he really started making a lot of hits again. Band on the Run, Jet, 1985, Let Me Roll It. It's really a terrific album. You can't deny it. I mean, is it his best album? It's up there. I mean, You can't deny it, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, at number 2, I have the 1975 album Venus and Mars. Okay, which I like even a little better than Band on the Run. I mean, it kind of continues the flavor of Band on the Run with great music, but it's a little better even, I think. And I don't have much more to say about it. I haven't done a proper review of this yet, I don't believe, so I'll save that. Except to say it's my second favorite Paul album. Well, you know, all you diehard fans out there know what I haven't mentioned yet. So number 1 is going to be Ram. I still haven't done a proper review on this album yet either, and everybody wants to know, when are you going to do a review? I really have to give it the justice it deserves. All I'll say about it here on this video is that I can't believe when it first came out in 1971, fans were completely confused by this, and critics trashed this. Rolling Stone magazine gutted this album, and now I don't know an album in history that I can think of offhand that has gotten such a reappraisal and such a universal love. This album is on everybody's top list, and I think what I like about it is it's got a homegrown sound from Paul, but at the same time, unlike, say, the McCartney album, the songs are more realized and completed, and there's a lot of different kinds of sounds on here. I mean, you know, you go from Too Many People, which opens the album, to something silly but fun like Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey, which is a childhood favorite. When I was 9 years old, I remember hearing that on the radio. Eat at Home, Monkberry Moon Delight. I don't want to do the whole review here, except to say this is now my favorite Paul McCartney album, I guess. I'm going to pick one. And it also follows just about everybody's list when you talk to fans. Well, that was it. I got it done in the time that I had. I had a few minutes remaining. And again, you know, it's just my opinions. I want to hear your comments below. I'll just reiterate that it's really hard to take 25 albums and try to figure, you know, what's number 23 and what's number 13 and, you know, 18. It's not an exact science. Thanks for watching.